Welcome to The Fountain, Season 2. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. It was one of the lowest times in the life of Moses. He was heartbroken. He had brought God's people out of Egypt and into the wilderness, the place of testing, and they had failed their first test. Even Moses himself had failed. In his anger, he had smashed those precious stone tablets to bits. Now he had no place to turn. All hope was gone. The future was bleak. Then God spoke. He gave Moses one of the most encouraging words in the entire Bible. And the Lord said, "Behold, there is a place by me." Exodus 33:21. Moses heard that call and climbed that mountain. He found the place into the presence of God, and there he got a fresh glimpse of how fabulous God is. Moses came away from that encounter radiating such brilliance that no one could stand to get close to him. If you're hungry for God, if you have ears to hear, God is sending out that same call to you. There is a place by me. It's up a rough mountain that gets difficult at times, but it's there. It's the place of God's favor that comes with the art of seeking God, an art that can be developed and mastered by anyone. Unfortunately, Satan has hidden the tremendous fact that anyone can rise from the dung heap and climb the mountain and find the place that Moses and many of the others have found. He has revved up the engines of busy activity to drown out the call of God, to rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. Song of Solomon 2:10. This is the time to acquaint yourself with the weapon of prayer. This is an instrument that can bring you up into high places or spiritual victories and make you a delight to God. It is a high caliber ammunition to assault all the trials up ahead and all the hurts of the past. From the day of our new birth, our Christian experience should be an ever-increasing relationship with God, kept fresh and growing by frequent visits daily to the secret place. But if we are not vigilant, prayer is forced to take a back seat and is soon covered up by the piles of urgent stuff that drowns out the call to pray. Then slowly, lukewarmness settles in, and the art of seeking God is discarded. It's not that we quit praying totally, but the urgency that leads us to passionately desire to take hold of God is no longer a driving force in our lives. Our quest up the mountain to know the Father, as Jesus knew him, diminishes, and we build a little cabin halfway to the top of the mountain. Soon we start fixing it up and become content to just sit in our recliners and read someone else's book on prayer. We compare ourselves with other Christians who seem to be doing okay at the same spiritual level. We come to the place where we think that knowing about God is just as good as actually getting to know him. That getting grounded in the Word is just as good as getting fresh revelation from the Word. So we become content with where we are with the Lord, and we become lukewarm. The thing we need most, we neglect, and we let our prayer life grow up in weeds. I passed by the field of a sluggard, by the vineyard of a man lacking sense, and behold, it was all overgrown with thorns. The ground was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw and considered it. I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a folding of the hands to rest. And poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. Proverbs 24:30-34, ESV version. This illustrates a man who is a robber, who's broke and too lazy to settle down and work. The armed man is one so loaded down with the heavy armor, such as tradition, religious activity, and making money, that he's unable to spend time in the secret place developing an appetite for Jesus. So instead of becoming ever richer toward God, we take the vain exit, and slowly our fire dies down to embers. We let our desire for more of Jesus level off, and then, slowly and craftily, spiritual poverty sneaks into our lives. While we're off tending to important stuff, our garden enclosed, Song of Solomon 4:12, is growing up in weeds and being neglected. We leave our first love, Revelation 2:4, and wonder why our Christian life is no longer thrilling and prayer is so difficult. Seeking God is not a hobby to fill up space in our lives or a religious duty we believe we ought to do. It is a weapon given to us by God to make us mighty warriors like the great men and women of God we read about. It is an art that is vital to survival. It is not an artistic ability that some have and some don't. It's a seed that is planted in the heart of every human and can be neglected or developed. The talents Jesus spoke of in Matthew 25:14-20 are a matter of developing a hunger for God. For example, a talent is a hunger for God, and it's a valuable thing in His eyes. It's the thing He looks for in us, and the work He does in our lives is directly in proportion to our hunger. So always keep reminding yourself, a hunger for God can be developed. Now, two of these men Jesus tells us about increased their talents while one did nothing with his. The Lord was elated with the two and put them on His most favored list. Psalms 119:58 and Proverbs 8:34-35. The one who did nothing to increase his talent was cursed and cast into outer darkness and classed as wicked. He hid behind excuses. I was afraid sounds better than I was lazy. But the root of his failure was laziness. This guy wasn't motivated by a deep love and desire to please his master. He could have been if only he had taken this desire to the exchangers and increased it. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine with usury. Matthew 25:26-27. Now the exchangers are things that increase our desire for God. Things like prayer, praise, fasting, meditation, and study. The more we do these things, the more our desire increases. And the thing God is always looking for is desire, a hunger for Him. He is not impressed with our ability, our super brain, our good looks, or even our right doctrine, but only with our hunger. Hunger is more important than obedience. If we are hungry after God, we are obedient for the right reasons. The rich young ruler who came running to Jesus had been obedient to the law all his life, but was empty inside and unwilling to pay the price that love would have gladly paid. Hunger is what keeps us humble, teachable, and spiritually alive, those things on which God can build. His eyes run to and fro throughout the whole earth, looking for hungry hearts in which he can invest. To these he will reveal himself and show them his supernatural power. 2 Chronicles 16:9. But so few have the determination to climb that lonely mountain to the heights to which Jesus is calling us. Narrow is the way that leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Matthew 7:14. Since Satan realizes the danger of our going to the bank, the secret place, and making deposits, he fights this more than anything. He sees to it that we are kept entangled with the affairs of this life. This isn't difficult because he has a faithful buddy inside us who cooperates with him. It's the flesh, the sin nature that doesn't like discipline, that wants the benefits of glory, of victory, without paying any price for it, that wants to carry a styrofoam cross and sees nothing wrong with compromise if it's more convenient. Flesh shuns any kind of self-denial and calls it works or performance or bondage. It hides behind excuses such as, I'm not a morning person. Oh, I'm just not called to prayer or fasting. That's the job of those intercessors. Here's one that people often use. That kind of praying is not grace, it's law. I don't want to be so heavenly minded that I'm no earthly good. So we remain so earthly minded that we are of no heavenly good and very little earthly good. As long as there is anything else to be done, prayer can wait. We become like Martha, who was so caught up in activity that she saw Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus as a definite waste of time. Martha would say, "You spend time with Jesus only after all the important things are done." Jesus tells us to seek first the kingdom of God. He spoke to those critical onlookers that day about priorities and showed them what he considered important. The one thing that is needful was what Mary was doing, transferring her account from earthly desires to godly ones. Down the line, she will be glad she did, and the others will be sorry they didn't. Jesus called all who would follow him to deny, not feed, that self-nature and take up a cross and follow him. All his life, Jesus carried a cross before he qualified to die on one. A cross is where we choose to take the path of self-denial to get closer to God. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." Matthew 16:24. Grace ripped the veil of the temple from top to bottom so that we might go into that holy of holies with more authority than the high priest had and have fellowship with Jesus for minutes or hours, day or night. Grace has opened the door into his presence and helps us to seek God. But grace won't do it for us. There is no substitute for prayer. Praise, meditation, worship, and singing to him are all a part of prayer. The exchangers, bankers, that transfer our earthly desires into our godly account, bringing us onto the road to becoming rich toward God. We can even come to the place of travail in prayer, which will move the heavenlies as Elijah did.